StitchyTube, settle down and watch StitchyTube. Hey everybody, welcome to all. StitchyTube number 14. Seems like it was just yesterday that it was number 13, but it was a couple weeks ago. So, I like to start off every video with answers to questions that you guys had in the comments of the last video. And I do try to catch them. If you ask a question from a video a few videos back, I do try to get those too as I see them. I try to reply to everybody. If I ever miss you, I'm sorry. I really do try. Vicky Waring asks, she said, I stitch in hand from upper left to lower right, and then from lower left to upper right. Is that wrong? And I think she asked that question maybe on my how to stitch in hand tutorial. And here's the good news, Vicky and everybody else. Doesn't matter. It does not matter. You can make your X's any way that feels right to you. I know sometimes people with different techniques, and if you're left-handed versus right-handed, you find a way that just makes sense to you, that feels comfortable, that works well, that works quickly, that looks nice. Whatever you decide, however you decide to make your X, it does not matter. And you know me, I don't like rules. So I'm not even going to say this is a rule. But I will say that if you stitch with sometimes the top of your X going one direction and then sometimes the top of your X goes the other direction, it can make your piece look irregular. It can give it kind of an uneven texture. And actually, it might be really cool to stitch something kind of schoolgirly like that, because I tell you what, these little girls who stitched samplers a couple hundred years ago made their X's different ways too. So don't worry. Stitching is all like how it feels good to you and how it looks nice to you. None of us are gonna to judge you for it. You just make your X's the way you like. Mary Whitner, or Whitener maybe, says, when reproducing, how do you decide your fabric color and count? Fabric is really tricky with an antique sampler, partially because, it's not new fabric. So my choice is to stitch something as a reproducer of samplers or as just me stitching somebody else's reproduction. I only have new fabric to choose from to stitch a sampler. And so new fabric doesn't look like old fabric. It just doesn't. It doesn't smell like it. It doesn't have the same texture. And even though we hand dye things and put coffee and tea on them, it's still just not the same. So I try to match. I usually use a hand-dyed fabric for the reproductions, and I try to get a color as close to the original as I can. And I'll pick out the colors of floss to match as best as I can too. I like to match the colors that are on the front of the sampler because I like the way the old samplers look today. A lot of times if you flip those samplers over, you would look at those colors and go, ugh, that is a pretty crazy color combination, sweetie. So to me, that's what I like. I like it to look like it does today. And so I match the color on the front, the fabric on the front, and the colors of the threads on the front. And then just make sure that they kind of all look okay. It can be tricky sometimes if they used like an off-white thread or a beige thread, and now the fabric is kind of off-white or beige or dark. A lot of times you'll get colors on these old samplers where the thread color and the fabric color are almost the same. And so if you stitch it that way, you may not see those motifs really well. So then sometimes you have to think like, okay, can I bump this up a little so it's a little whiter so it shows up, or can I make it a little darker so it shows up? It's always just kind of a balancing act. And so it's a lot of executive decisions. As far as fabric count, a lot of these old samplers were stitched on super fine linens. Super fine, like 40 is chunky compared to a lot of these old samplers. So you'll see a lot of things on 50 count, 55 count, 60 count, finer than that. The more kind of primitive samplers that you'll see, they may only be stitched on a 30 count or a 32 count or whatever. But it's one of the things that I think about, and I'm thinking about this now because I'm busy working on a couple of different reproductions, is do I try to match the count as close as I can? So I have a sampler that I'm going to be reproducing sometime soon. And the original was stitched on like a 55-ish count. And I talked to my model stitcher and she said she's cool with that. But then I'm thinking like, well, if I say that you have to stitch it on 55 count, 56 count, which is available, are people going to get freaked out and not want to stitch it or buy it? So a lot of times I try to just go 40 because it's pretty fine as it is. I don't know, with this one I might go with the really fine count. I know that the Scarlet House had that Smith sampler that came out last year that was gorgeous. I'm going to put a picture of that right here, the Smith sampler by the Scarlet House. So pretty, and on a super fine count of linen, like 50 count, 50 something count. Very, very, very pretty. And I know that a lot of people stitched it on different counts, and it's still very, very, very pretty. So I don't know. It's always a decision. Thanks for the question. Stitchaholic wanted to know why use sawdust. And I showed in a recent video that I had done some finishing using sawdust. I went to my local hardware type chain and tried to track down some sawdust. And I thought you would be able to buy it for sale, but you cannot. So I kind of begged some off of their equipment and just scooped it into a bag. They let me do it. I had permission. I did not sneak in there with a bag and just like stealing your sawdust. But it didn't cost them anything, and God bless them, I give them my business. So I had used sawdust to stuff this little pincushion chart by Blackbird Designs. Over the years, I've finished many a pillow, many a fob, many a roll. And there's always, in the back of my mind, one day back in the like 1990s, a long, long time ago, I went to Colorado and I actually got to go to You and I and Friends. They had a store and I got to go to their store and it was so cute. And they had these really cool Prairie Schooler samplers finished up as block pillows where they were, it wasn't a cube because they were tall and skinny, but they were very heavy. And then they had piping and, kind of primitive fabric. I mean, we still today would think those were super cute. And they stood up really nice and sturdy. And since then, I've just kind of been on the hunt to like, how do I get that kind of sturdy feel? And so when I used to finish things, I went around looking for different types of fillings. This is an old shop model of mine. It's a shepherd's bush kit called Harvest Fob. And you can see I stitched it in 2003. And the kit, if you can still get it, the kit did come with the scissors, the fabric, all the threads, this cute little carrot charm, the stuff for the cording, and very nice instructions. And I think they have had a number of these fob kits, and they always work up super cute. This one I filled with just regular old batting. And I've stuffed it as far as I could. Now, I don't know if I lofted, Vanna, but I would do loft now. Loft and loft and loft. I think this one could use a refinish. I dug it out and I was like, oh, that's actually really cute, but I think I would finish it as a card, more as a card and not a pillow. I think that's what I would do. And I think I could do it. I think I could take it apart and refinish it very carefully. But anyway, so this is stuffed with batting. And if you stuff it and loft it, like Vanna says, and get the corners real packed in tight, you do get a nice stuffed look. And it has held true for 15 years. It's still in pretty good shape, even considering it was handled a lot at the shop and is just, old. So that's that kind of batting. Now, it's not terribly heavy. Sometimes if you use a wool batting, you can get it. It feels like denser. And then Farm Girl, she the one that uses like stuff from her rabbit? I want rabbit stuff in my... Okay, I don't have rabbit stuff. I don't need rabbits. But anyway, that's this kind of stuffing. Then Barb and Alma from Blackbird Designs, kind of started using lizard litter, which is just crushed walnut shells that you get at the pet store. And they're not expensive, and you get a huge bag, and it's like maybe like $15, but you can fill a whole bunch of things. And I like the weight of it. This one isn't stuffed super full, and I put little buttons in the cushions. Now, the problem with the lizard litter, unless you pack it super, super tight, it's kind of floppy, and you can feel it. Like when you pick it up, it kind of rolls around in there. So I like it. I like the weight of it. It's always tricky to get it stuffed full enough, so that you get it all the way to the top and then you're able to sew it closed. So that's something I have trouble with. Okay, so that's two kinds of filling. Another kind of filling that I've used is rice. And we eat a lot of rice at home. I grew up eating a lot of rice. I have a rice cooker. We eat rice often. And it's cheap. And this is filled with rice. And I've shown this before on my videos. This is a la-di-da piece. Roses Are Red, maybe it's called. And I didn't have any more lizard litter. And so I just filled it with rice. And again, you get that really heavy, dense feel. But again, unless you get it, and I on purpose didn't fill this one to the top. Even if you fill it, there's some shifting that goes on with the rice. It kind of shifts back and forth. So I like the heaviness, but I don't like the shifting. So then the thing with sawdust is, it's weighty, but it stays put. The sawdust is kind of like fibery, and so they kind of hug onto each other, and they don't slide onto each other. So you get a much firmer feeling pincushion that doesn't see, like I can hold this here and it's not drooping like this. It's staying, but it's weighty. So that's why I like sawdust. I also like that it was free. And I like the smell. And I like that it's all natural. And it's something that would otherwise probably just be thrown away. So that's why I like sawdust, and that's my new go-to. I know other people have been using sawdust for a long time. I'm very late to the show on this one, but I would recommend it. If you haven't tried sawdust, that's why I like it. All right, it's 2 more questions. Amy McDonald wanted to know, what is a sampler thread as opposed to an overdyed thread? And people get confused because it's, we use a lot of overdyed, hand-dyed, sampler thread, Weeks Dye Works, Classic Color Works, Space Dyed. Overdyed thread is thread that was one color and now someone dyed it a different color. And so that even counts for like white thread. If it's was white thread and now you've dyed it a different color, it's overdyed. Meaning just there's dye over the color that it was. And you can overdye, if you have DMC that you don't like the color of, and it's like, oh, I got these at a garage sale, but I'll never use this, fuchsia or whatever. Go get some dye. Dye it black. Go get some dye and just throw some dye in there and see what you come up with. You can just overdye it. A lot of times, hand-dyed fabrics and overdyed fabrics, or hand-dyed fibers and overdyed fibers, have kind of that mottled look. And sampler threads, I know when they started, they were really looking for that kind of old sampler look where the thread kind of fades in and out of colors. There are variegated threads too, and a variegated thread oftentimes is a thread that's, blue, and then it goes into pink, and then it goes into yellow, and then back into blue. And so you'll see, with the variegated threads, a lot of times they're a more evenly spaced color, and you get those color changes. But that's all that means. Sampler threads is just a brand of overdyed threads, just like Weeks Dye Works is, and just like Classic Color Works is. And there's the Victorian Motto threads, and the Color and Cotton threads, and there's all kinds of beautiful overdyed threads, and you can buy them from people who do a great job, and you can just go down to the craft store and get some dye and try dyeing your own too. Okay, last question. 1856 Brick House, I think was this person's handle, said that she noticed that there's mostly English samplers available on eBay. Are American ones worth more? She was looking for American samplers. So it depends on the day. Yes, there are a lot of British samplers on eBay. You can find Scottish and Irish, and there were some really cool Spanish ones and some Dutch ones. They're always cycling through which nationalities. American samplers, well, here's one of the problems with eBay samplers, and it's not a huge problem for us, I don't feel. And I'm gonna make a video about how to go about like looking for samplers online, just from my experience. A lot of times when you're buying a sampler online, you don't have very much information at all. And so you look at a sampler and it's like, all they can tell you is they got it at a flea market or an estate sale. And that's all the information they have. Sometimes there's not even a name or a date on it. And if there's no provenance, there's no like record, it's really hard to say. You can say, yes, this looks like a British sampler from the early 1800s, but there's no way to know for sure if it is. You do have to be careful. Like if they don't have paperwork that says this is an American sampler, it was stitched by so-and-so in this year, They don't know. They don't know. So they can say it looks like an American sampler, or it looks like a British sampler, or it definitely has the hallmarks of a Spanish sampler, but you just don't know. There are just a lot more British samplers than there are of anything else, which is part of the reason why you see so many. And I was having a conversation with somebody from over in the UK this week, and she was just saying that there just isn't the love for antique samplers over there that there is here. Now, there's love. Like, I know that you guys are out there. I can see you, those of you who subscribe and those of you who watch my videos. So I totally know you guys are out there. But she just said sometimes people see it as just kind of like a, not that interesting. And I think part of it is it's just so prevalent that you just see so much of it. And so it's why, a lot of people in America are buying British samplers. They're gorgeous. They're amazing. British samplers are amazing. Fine count linens, beautiful motifs, but they're all different. I guess, so then the question is it worth more? That was the second question. There are more English samplers than American, generally, I would say, just based on my experience. Are American ones worth more? Worth more to who is the question you want to ask. In a way, they are. They're more sought after because they're more rare. And, it's all that basic economics 101 lesson of supply and demand. So it's who is it worth more to? So a lot of people, Americans, look for American samplers because they're Americans. And so it's like, this is my heritage and I'm interested by this. There aren't as many of them. So they can sometimes go for more money. So in a way, yes, they are worth more. They often go for higher. You'll pay a higher price for a much simpler American, a verified American sampler than you would for a much more ornate, better condition British sampler a lot of times. But really, all it takes is one person or two people. So if for a sampler to be worth a lot of money, it takes two people who really, really want it. And for a sampler to be worth not a lot of money means that maybe there was only one person who was even remotely interested. And I'm going to share more about that later. So yes, oftentimes American samplers go for more money based on what you're getting. And that's just not nepotism. What do they call that? Like nationalism? I don't know. It's just people who are just proud of their country is all it is. People that just want something from their country. And there's just not as much of it. So I hope that answers your question. It doesn't mean there aren't American samplers on there. They are just harder to find. And it's harder to know for sure. I think, and then anytime you have a sampler where it comes down with the paperwork, a photograph of the stitcher, information about her family, if you can tie that to somebody that like, oh, this is definitely an American, just having that story makes the sampler worth more to people because they like to have that story. I'm really a big fan of ragamuffins. I love a sampler where it's like, we don't know. Who was this person? We don't know, but look at how beautiful this sampler was. Okay, that's enough of that. Winner of the fabric and lace from last time is, drumroll, Carrie2667. So I'm sorry, Carrie2668. You were not chosen this time. It's just Carrie2667. She said that she loves to see the new starts for Stitch Mania, but that Stitch Mania kind of terrifies her because it stresses her out because she already has too many whips. But she is really looking forward to see what everybody's working on, and she's looking forward to adding to her stash based on seeing what other people are working on. And there were a lot of people who said that. The question was, what are your plans for Stitch Mania? And it was fun to read what you all have planned. There are a lot of different plans, and that's really cool. A good number of people are just going to keep on trucking, doing things the way they do them and not do Stitch Mania. And a lot of people are doing Stitch Mania. Some people are doing a new start every day. Some people are working on last year's whips. Some people are starting 18 for the year 2018. Some people are working on ornaments or smalls. It was really cool to just hear what everybody was planning. So if you haven't, there is a Facebook group on Stitch Mania, and Mania is Maynia. But you don't have to belong to that to participate. You really don't, and there's really no rules. All right, it's time for what I'm all into. And I'm into, this is going to seem kind of weird, but it's not so weird. I'm into BatZilla the Bat. And it's a little channel here on YouTube, and I'll put a link below to her channel, BatZilla the Bat. She is from Queensland, Australia, and she rescues flying foxes. And, I've I've been rescuing kittens for like 7 or 8 years now. And so to me, it's like, it's fun to see another person who does that kind of work. And so she has these bats, anywhere from like teeny, tiny, tiny little bats to bigger bats. And what happens is the bats often get caught in netting over fruit trees. So people have fruit trees and they, I'm going to adjust this a little bit. Let's bump this down a little bit. There we go. People put up a fruit tree net to protect their fruit. Mangoes, figs, that kind of a thing. But she says if you have a netting that is big enough to fit a finger through, that it can catch these bats, that they smell the fruit, they see the fruit, they come in, and all of a sudden they're tangled up in the net, and a lot of them die. Mother bats also get electrocuted on power lines. There was one bat that they pulled out of a swimming pool, and they're just the cutest little things. And you might not like bats, but really for most of her videos, she has them wrapped up like little burritos. So just their little tiny faces are poking through, and they have little beady eyes, and they suck on pacifiers, which is so cute. And they drink tiny bottles, and she feeds them bananas. They love bananas. And then once they get bigger to a certain size, she has a huge enclosure in her backyard where they can hang from the top of the enclosure. And she has these mesh kind of wire balls that she stuffs full of bananas, peeled bananas, and they all gather around it and eat the bananas. And they sleep curled up in their wings. And oh my gosh, they're cute. So anyway, if you think that sounds fun, the videos are usually anywhere from 50 seconds to 2.5 minutes each. So if you just need a little pick-me-up and want to see a really cute little face, they just kind of make you feel good. I love having the windows open. April is a beautiful month in Hattiesburg. We kind of go between, winter, it's not cold here, but it's kind of too cold to have the windows open a lot of the time. And then summer, forget about it. We're getting ready to shut up for the summer, and the air conditioning just runs 24/7. So April is just such a treat because I just go through the house raising the windows. The cats love to sit and look out. I love having the windows open. It smells really good outside right now too. There are a lot of different little like honeysuckles and things flowering. Okay, I'm all into, and I didn't show these when I got them, Mr. Rogers stamps. They're here at the post office. And so hopefully yours has them. Mine had run out, and I went back and I got 3 sheets. So get your Mr. Rogers stamps. They are forever stamps. And I haven't used any of them yet because I'm like, if I use them, I won't have them. But I need to start using them and spread the love. I'll keep a stamp. I'll keep a stamp. Maybe I'll make it into a magnet or something. Okay, he's so nice. Thumbs up. I'm into thumbs ups these days on YouTube. When I watch a video, if I'm sitting by the computer, if I've watched the video, I give it a thumbs up. Like, because you kept my attention the whole time. I appreciate the time that you put into it. I get so sad when I am watching people, like even this bat lady. She rescues bats. And she gets up every 2 hours to feed some of them, and she washes them from their bat juice or whatever. and people give her thumbs down, and it's like, what are you doing? Don't do that. So I give everybody, I'm like, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Because I can tell you as a YouTuber, no matter how many thumbs up you get, when you get a thumbs down, you're like, I'm sorry. What's wrong with me? And you shouldn't do that. Who cares? It doesn't matter. A thumbs down doesn't care. And I'm not asking you to give me thumbs up. I'm not asking for that. I'm just saying that because I'm a YouTuber and I recognize that thumbs up mean a lot, even though it's just a really simple action, I run around and I give thumbs ups. I also like to take in a buggy at the grocery store, and I've done this for years. I used to get kind of, how you see people acting selfishly or, poorly, and you just get disgusted, and you're like, some people, and, people will leave their buggies. We call them buggies down here. They're grocery carts. They'll leave them in a parking place. So now nobody can park in that parking place because there's a buggy in the middle of it. Or they leave them in the handicap zone. Or they leave them out in the main, throughway. I used to be like, some people. But then I was like, I'm heading that way. I'm literally walking into the grocery store. It never fails here, and I don't know how it is in your town, but there are carts everywhere. People just aren't very good about putting them back. They're kind of lazy. I just grab one on the way in. I try to pull one out of a parking place, so I've freed up a parking place. I use it, and if I can, if I'm just grabbing a few things, I leave the cart in the store, and then that way no one else has to pick up after me. It's just a little something you can do to help people that you don't know. Last thing I'm into is peach Fanta. I've only had one, and it's gone already. I don't even have a can to show you. I think it's a relatively new flavor. They have green apple now too. You know, like when grocery shopping loses its luster after the first several decades. You know, like the first few times you go grocery shopping, you're like, this is fun, I can buy anything I want. And then you're like, ugh, again with the grocery shopping. And so many blessings that I'm able to afford groceries. Not complaining about that at all. But it's just that you kind of end up getting into a rut where it's like you're always like, you get the same thing. So what I've been trying to do is like, let's try something we've never tried before. Because there've got to be things out there that we would really like that we haven't. I don't get it because it's not on my standard list of things to get. So I picked up some peach Fanta. It's really good. Very summery tasting, and it doesn't taste like peach, you know, like fake peach. It tastes like peach, like juicy peach soda. So, and the green apple is good too. I haven't had one of those yet. I had a sip of Steve's the other day. It was very good. And they have pineapple, and they're just kind of summery. So anyway, peach Fanta. Okay, that's what I'm all into this week. Next on the list, Cheap and Cheerful. Where did my Cheap and Cheerful go? Okay, last time was our first Cheap and Cheerful, and people participated. Yay for you. Here's how you participate in Cheap and Cheerful. When I make the StitchyTube videos, not necessarily the tutorials or the informational videos, I'm going to issue like a very inexpensive happy challenge. And you can share what you do on Instagram. And so you put it under hashtag KSCAC. And if you need help remembering what that stands for, it stands for KittenStitcher, Cheap and Cheerful. So hashtag KSCAC. Uh-oh, we got some running around. We got some hissing. KSCAC, they're not being cheap and cheerful, though they're being cheap. So last time it was to wear some jewelry that you hadn't worn in a while, and I actually did it. I haven't taken this off, and it was an anniversary gift. And why do I never wear it? I love it. I'm wearing it every day. I have not taken it off yet. So I'm so glad that I went into my jewelry and just started wearing something that I had, you know, lost my connection with. So the challenge this week is to look through baby pictures, and so or pictures of you when you were young. And I realize it could be sad, you know, it could make you sad, but you know, try to look at it in a way of like, hey, look at how far I've come. Look at how cute I was. Look at my rosy cheeks. Look at my chubby little feet. So look through old photos. And which is free because you've got the photos. Hopefully you have the photos. And then post a picture of yourself when you were young on hashtag KSCAC. And I'm going to post this one on Instagram later, but I thought I'd share this one of me. I was like 7 months old. I think I don't know, does it still? Yeah, it still kind of looks like me. But I just thought that was cute. Bundled up for a walk outside. That's real cute. So that it made me smile to look at the pictures and to share one with you. So this week, post a picture of yourself when you were young. And it doesn't have to be when you were a baby. It could be when you were a teenager and your hair was real crazy and big. Or it could be when you were, 6 years old and you were missing your 2 front teeth. Just a picture of you that makes you smile, that makes you feel happy, and that you're proud to share with us. Okay, so that's Cheap and Cheerful. Cheap and Cheerful. That's your challenge this week. Time for my whips. I had a few this week, and it's been probably about 10 days since I posted. Actually, and I'll mix in some FOs too. I finished this. Miss Elizabeth Perkins, milliner and dressmaker, 27 Main Street. This is by Kathy Barrick. You can find this on her Etsy shop, and I know my friend Jen at Jen's Stitching Niche also, I think she carries this one too, and then there's a new one that was released at Market. This was fun to stitch. that skirt took forever. It really did, because this is 40 count, and it's a silk weaver fabric called Pecan Pie that's kind of blushy, and I really like the color with this. That skirt took forever, and I had to do it like a little at a time, a little at a time, a little at a time. And what I did is I stitched the outside of it first, and then I stitched all the motifs, and then I just filled and filled and filled. And it's like, okay, I'll fill a little more, but it took a while. And I saved for last this upper corner, because to me, I couldn't, like, that was the best part. It's kind of like saving, you know, your dessert till last. And I just thought that it was super cute. But I really, really like it. I have the other chart, and yes, I will stitch it. I don't know if I'll stitch the other one in silks. It's charted for silks, and it was very pretty, but this was charted in DMC. I don't know. I don't know what I'll do. Okay, another piece that I've been working on this week is Hannah Pepper, and this is from Fine Lines magazine, and I think I've showed this before. It's very, very pretty, and I have finally gotten kind of around and down to where I feel like I can work on the, let's see if we can get some better light here, work on the grass. I was so excited to work on the grass, which is weird because grass isn't that exciting. I had forgotten before I picked it back up that I had stained it. So there's a pink stain here. When I was having trouble with my feet last fall, I was icing my feet one night, and then I just took the Ziploc, you know, zippered baggie full of ice and set it on the floor next to my stitching bag. And so I had like 3 or 4 pieces get wet with some overdyed threads in there, and they bled. And so, you know, initially I was like, now what do I do? It's ruined. It's not ruined. It's not ruined. What I'm going to do is find a thread that's very close in color to the ground fabric. And I'm going to stitch solidly over where the pink is with cross stitches over that area. And I love it. Like, I love that. It's exactly what a girl would have done back in the day. It's exactly what somebody would have done if they had found an old sampler with a piece missing. When you look at old samplers, there are patches and fixes, and somebody has gone back in and tried to fix something or restitch something. And so I am actually, like, I'm super cool with that. There's going to be this little discrepancy down here at the bottom, because to me that makes it like more authentic as a sampler. I am stitching her name on it, but there are a few parts in the piece that are stitched over one. Like there are 2 rows of birds that are stitched over one. I'm not a super huge fan of stitching over one on 40 count, especially with full crosses. And I do like to do the full crosses because that's often what they would do. They didn't really do tent stitch. And so, like, it's already got 2 verses that are over one. You can see I've been putting off doing this one in the darker color. It's so pretty, but it's fiddly and it takes a while. So I think I'm going to leave off those rows of birds, and I'm actually going to stitch in like my name and my age, because then it makes it the history of 2 stitchers. I think that's cool. Another piece that I've been working on, well, that I pulled out this week, is by La Di Da, and I think it might be called All Our Troubles. And I almost had this finished. I had like this little cluster of like leaves and berries left to do, and the border. So the other day I was like, I'm just going to sit and crank this out. And I got everything done except the border. And then in the upper corner here, there's like you put your initials and then the year in the other corner. I don't have the thread. And I had already started it. So I got to get more charcoal Weeks Dye Works. And it's no big deal because I'm getting some, I had given some to Jennifer for something she's doing. And I said, can I just have a chunk of that back? Because I need to finish this. But that's all I got left. So that's exciting. Okay, so that's what I've been working on. And then, okay, so I have a new design. And this will be available in about a week or so. But it's all done and it's all finished. I had my basket of eggs. I'll put a picture here of my basket of eggs. Okay, so that was my basket of eggs that I released at market. And you may remember that there was a tutorial that I did that showed you how to do the finishing. So this is going to be a series, Stitchers. And so the next one is done, and it's called Basket of Red, White, and Blue. And it is finished mostly the same way. And there it is. And I did a few kind of little different things this time. Not too different though. The finishing is exactly the same. The kit is going to come with a button, the threads, the fabric, and it will be available just as a chart. And so if you're a shop and you want to order some of the kits, send me an email or get a hold of me and I can send you those. But otherwise, the charts will be available at Hoffman and Yarn Tree. But then I did this torn fabric. I think it was French General fabric. I just ripped a couple of strips off and then used these pins that I had spray painted for a class that I taught and just poked them in there. So it's kind of like sparklers or, you know, fireworks or whatever. So that's it. Basket of red, white, and blue. And it turned out really cute. It was super fun to stitch. I also did, there's a little satin stitch here kind of for the center of the basket to give it texture. But there will be more baskets coming. And so there it is. That's a new design by Shakespeare's Peddler. Jennifer will have it at Jen's Stitching Niche, but you got to give me about a week to get this together. It's going to take a minute to get it all put together, but I wanted to show you guys first. Okay. All right. And so, maybe you know that we've had a sampler exchange with my friends, and they were due this month, and I got mine from Sue, and she stitched this beautiful, beautiful sampler. And it's an older chart by Sheepish Designs. I don't remember what it's called. It's not a chart that's really still available or anything, but it is very pretty. She stitched it on a 28 count Picture This Plus in silks, and look at all those beautiful eyelet stitches. I love eyelets, and she knew that about me. And then the fabric, the threads, she picked out threads to match. I think it's called like Fig Tree by Moda. It's like a line of fabric that's real kind of retro, and I like it. Like the pretty aquas and greens and yellows. Very, very pretty. And there's a little frog down at the bottom. Can I hold him up? Whoop! He's stitched over one, that little frog. And there's a cute little snail with like a chain stitch shell. Super, super cute. Look at her back. That girl is good. Okay, so thank you, Sue. I love it. I need to go pick out a frame for it and hang it proudly. Proudly, proudly, proudly. Love it, love it, love it. I hadn't shown, I showed last time, I think, the pin cushion that I made for Jennifer, but I forgot to show the pin cushions that I got in the exchange from Kathy and Sue. And this was the last exchange that we did. Sue made me this really cool pin cushion that's got a snowman with a button, and then this cute little snowman like with a house. And then she did English paper piecing, and it's fussy cut. So like it's too, this light is just not, it's really hard because it's afternoon here. So it's, you can see it's kind of fussy cut where it's got like, there's little chicken legs, and there's a little cat one, there's a little cat face one. And so there's a little cat paw print, but they're just really, really cute. And then she's got these little labels that have her name on the bottom. I don't know where she got those, but they're really cool. So that was really, really neat. And then it's got, these are pockets on the side, so you can stick your scissors in there. But that's really great. And it's very heavy. I believe she put lizard litter in here. And then Kathy made me 2 pin cushions that were Prairie Schooler, little Prairie Schooler motifs. I don't know which Halloween sampler chart this is from, but they're very, very cute. And they got cute fabric on the back. And it's probably, I don't know if it's Lady Dot trim. It probably is. It seems like it is. It's very, very cute. And I love Halloween stuff. But yeah, it's really, really cute. And, it's got a cat on it. Gotta love that. Okay. All right. I got something really super cool in the mail this week. And, I collect antique samplers. And I try to find good deals, typically. So you got to watch eBay because sometimes people put stuff up as a buy it now, and it's like they put it up way too cheap. And then sometimes you just watch auctions that go, and it's just fun. Like to me, it's just fun to watch it. It's like, oh, good for them. They got $2,000 for that sampler. It was totally worth it. But there's a sampler that went up, and the pictures were terrible. I'm going to put a picture right here of what their main picture was for this sampler. Okay, so that's a really bad picture. Super washed out, can't see the detail. They had tried to do some close-ups. It was in a frame with glass on top of it. The glass was probably dirty. The pictures weren't good. Now, I could tell that the sampler was in tough shape. Samplers like this were typically stitched in England in the late 1600s and early 1700s, but there's no provenance that came with this. So even though you could say like, oh, this is, for sure, I would never want to say for sure that's what this was unless I had some kind of proof. And the person selling it only knew that she bought it like 15 years ago at some auction where they were selling a bunch of really, really old needlework. There were 20 people watching this auction, and it was $203 was the starting bid, and no one had bid. And over the course of the week, people just drifted away and stopped watching it. Just drifted away. And it got to the last day, and it looked to me like I was the only one watching it anymore. These kind of samplers are very expensive. When they're in good shape, they are museum quality pieces. When they come up for sale on eBay, they go for thousands of dollars. They are a ton of work. I knew this one was in tough shape. But I told you I love ragamuffins. I love orphans where it's like, oh, you're kind of scraggly. I love you. I would never be able to afford the thousands that it would require to get one that was in good shape. I got to start playing the lottery. No, I don't. So it got closer and closer, and I just waited and waited and waited. And my heart's kind of like pounding. And I'm like, I could buy this. And it got down to the last few minutes, and I just put the starting bid in. And then I just watched and watched and watched, and nobody else bid. I got it for $203, like 25 cents. So I'm going to show it to you, and then I'm going to talk to you about it. It's very, very cool, but it's in tough shape. I know that it's in tough shape. You don't have to tell me. Let's see, I'm going to hold it back so you can get the full effect. Let's see, will it help if I put some light on it? There are large portions missing. They're eating bread and food. There are people with, so I'm gonna zoom in on a few areas. This woman here, there's a lot of the thread is missing from the front of the sampler, but it's on the back. This is sewn to two different pieces of fabric in an attempt to try to conserve it. There are places where you can kind of peek underneath, and the thread colors on the back are still very vibrant. It has a lot of great little elements to it. I loved that lion down in this corner and the strawberry plant. But you can see down here along the bottom a bird, a boat, and some sea monsters. I think this here is a stag, but they tried to repair it and it's just a mess. But there's all different kinds of flowers that are super beautiful. This main tent is the king. This is the story of Esther from the Bible. And she was, well, I'll tell you about it in a minute because I don't want to hold this up forever. There is a hanging man in the top corner. Whoops, where is he? There's a hanging man. There's a really cool castle and clouds, and you can see the sun here in the middle. Lots of missing areas. Tough shape. Look at this rug down here at the bottom. This would have been a stunner. I put more pictures up on my Facebook page at Shakespeare's Peddler Facebook page, and then on my Instagram at KittenStitcher, so you can see if you want to see closer pictures. The story of Esther essentially is there was this Persian king who's kind of a jerk, and he had this banquet, and he was like, "Send my wife so she can look beautiful and everyone can look at her." And she said, "I don't want to come to dinner." And then his advisor was like, "Ooh, you should kill her because she's sassy to you, and if you let that get away with that, let her get away with that, other wives will be sassy to their husbands." So he got rid of her. So he got a new queen named Esther, and he did not know that she was raised Jewish. And anyway, kind of long story short, he was very anti-Jew. He was against the Jewish people. And there was like, this plot against him. And she revealed the plot. And essentially what happened is it turned out his advisor was the bad guy. That's the guy who got hanged in the upper corner of the sampler. And she confessed that she was, Jewish, and that a Jewish person had also tried to help and was a good person. And so then he turned so that he was in favor of the Jewish people. That's the basic story. And I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I don't know if the entire thing is reproducible. It is on a roughly, I would say 58-ish count ground fabric, linen. And based on the size of it, I believe there are about 900,000 stitches in it. Or there were 900,000 stitches in it. These type of samplers, the way they were made is that an artist would draw a picture, or they would transfer a picture onto the fabric, and then it was a lot like needlepoint. The outlines were there, and then the stitcher would fill in the areas with thread, with the shading and everything. But it was almost like filling in a cartoon or a coloring book, except it was very detailed. But it was like a paint by number, or it was like a needlepoint canvas where it basically is laid out and you just kind of fill it in. There's no counting involved. And it's cool because on this sampler, the threads are gone in some areas and you can see those original drawings underneath. I may only be able to reproduce parts of it, motifs from it. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But I never, ever, ever thought I would have one. And I know it's in tough shape, but I love her. And so it's going to be a journey. But it's nothing that I'm doing right now. I just have it right now. That's all. So I wanted to share that with you. I think it's very, very cool. Okay. It's time for a segment, and this is the first time I've done it on one of my StitchyTube videos, called Inspired by Garbage. And it has its own theme song, which goes like this. Inspired by garbage, inspired by garbage, inspired by garbage. I like, reusing things for their not, intended purpose. And sometimes you can, use things around the house that it's like, oh, I was going to throw that away, but I made something out of it. Sometimes when you're, working with threads, they come on cards like sampler threads or Week Style Works, and they're small, or they get kind of bent and crinkly, or you tear part of it and so you can't hang it on your ring anymore. And you can buy cards to hang your stuff from, but you can make cards to hang your stuff from too. And that's what I've done by, I had to buy a few pieces of equipment, so I'm going to show you what I bought. This is by the paper company. I believe I got it at Hobby Lobby. Gosh, the lighting today. I'm sorry, guys. It's an oval, 2.5-inch oval. And so there's what it looks like on the back. And it comes with a screen here so you can catch what you're punching and then slide it out. I don't need that. So you can punch. It's for scrapbookers, I think, mainly. But it's a punch to make that shape. Hey, Peaches. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay. Okay, don't sit on that. Oh, Peaches. Okay, so the other thing that I bought is a 3/4-inch smaller punch that just makes a circle. And I think I got this one at Michael's. And if you watch, these go on sale because they're not super cheap, but they're not too bad when they go on sale. And you can use your coupons or whatever. So a 3/4-inch punch and then a 2.5-inch punch. And you can get the 2.5-inch punches or whatever size you want. You can get hearts, you can get circles. To me, an oval made a lot of sense because there's nothing for the threads to catch on. It's a nice shape. And then the corners don't get bent because there are no corners. It's just an oval. Okay, so there's that. And then you need just a regular hole punch, which you may have one of these around. In a pinch, you could just use, if you have one of those 3-hole punches, you could just, use that to punch your holes. But just a regular punch, paper punch. This one's really old. So then save your packaging. And I saved, this is that peach Fanta. And I've got some cool Coca-Cola box and Ramune. My son had bought some Ramune. And so these are just colorful, but you could use whatever. You can use cereal boxes, cracker boxes, cookie boxes. You could use Christmas cards, or birthday cards, things you get in the mail. If you're going to just throw something that's kind of cardstocky away, hang on to it, make some thread drops, keep a box of them, and then you can put your threads on them, and then you just write on the back what the colors are. And then if you wreck one, it's no big deal because it was just garbage anyway, and you can just make another one. So that's that, thread drops. And then you can get these hinged rings at a lot of office supply stores. Amazon will have them too. And you can get, I think this is like a 2-inch ring. You can get 1-inch rings, 1.5-inch rings. This is a 4-inch ring, which is real handy. You can see over my shoulder there, I've got 4-inch rings that are hanging from the handle of a basket. But that way you can just organize your threads. You could use these just for one project. And then when you're done, and you can even you could write the symbol right on there, what the symbol is for the chart you're working on. And when you're done, throw them away. That's it, inspired by garbage. Okay, what have I been working on? A lot of things. I'm going to give you an S Word update. This is the beautiful little marking sampler, and Ann at Gloriana is working on dyeing our threads. She dyed them, and they came out a little too dark, and she said, I know what I did, and it's so lovely that I'm actually going to make it a new color in the line. So that's kind of cool. But she's re-dyeing our threads for us, and so it shouldn't be too much longer before I can start kitting these. So I will give you an update soon. When this sampler is ready, I will make a video. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe so you can make sure to see when I post. And once this kit is ready, that's when I'll open my new website. And then you can order it that way. But still waiting. Just wanted to give you an update on how we're doing. We're just still waiting for the supplies. Okay, so that's that. And then, I guess I had a couple of stash enhancements. I got some Brenda Gervais patterns. I love them. Everybody loves them. I got this one, which is called A Stitch in Time. Very pretty. I got Here a Peep, There a Peep. I think this was new at market, which is really cute. There's a witch one too. And then I got Jingle All the Way. I already had the witch one. I got the Potting Shed, which I think someone showed it in their video, and I just was like, oh yeah, that's really cute. I got Stars and Stripes, which is cute. I don't do a lot of patriotic stuff, and it's not that I'm not patriotic. I don't know why. I don't know, but now I do. And then I got this lovely reproduction by Kathy Barrick, Ann Smith, a Quaker reproduction. So pretty, so lovely. It's so pretty and so lovely that was the second time I bought it. So I gave it to somebody who likes samplers, and that's fine. It is what it is. I don't often repurchase a chart, but because I did, I'm like, well, Treese, you might as well throw that into your Stitch Mania plans because obviously you love it or you wouldn't have bought it for a second time. So I think that is going to go into my Stitch Mania pile. Okay. I'm kind of excited about this. I'm working on a sampler zine. You know what a zine is? A zine is essentially a self-published magazine. And I don't know if you knew, I have a master's degree in mass communication. I had majored in print journalism twice and had originally thought I was going to work at a newspaper. And I did not do that. I taught mass communication at the college level for a while, and then I opened my business. And even though I used my communication skills, I didn't do what originally I was going to do. And I was thinking recently, about Sampler and Antique Needlework Quarterly, which was a great magazine. And, looking through my magazines, and I was like, oh, it's just so sad that they're not making it anymore because it was so cool. Because people still love antique samplers, and there's still a lot of people designing and reproducing samplers, and there's still a lot to learn and to teach and to show. And so I wish somebody would just make another sampler magazine. I could make a sampler magazine. That's kind of what I thought. So I'm working on it. I have a working name, but I'm not going to tell you what it is yet because I don't know if I'm going to change my mind. I've been working on it for a few weeks. I'm working on an interview with a top designer that is so nice and so talented. There will be some charts in there. There will be articles. There will be information. It's going to be really, really cool. Ad-free, and it'll be available for purchase as a download from my website. I'm shooting for July. I already have received permission from a very fine museum to use some pictures from their museum and an article that I'm working on about what antique samplers are. And so I'm really excited about it. And I just think we got to keep this love for samplers going. But then remember too that like this isn't just yesterday's samplers, it's what we're also doing today. There are people stitching samplers and designing samplers today. And so at 200 years from now, think how much people will love to look at what we're doing. So I'm working on that, and I'm really excited about it. It's very cool so far, and it's very fun to do. And the neat thing is, like, it's no ads. It won't cost me anything to print or ship because there's no printing or shipping. It's all just a download, which means you'll be able to read it on your laptop or on your iPad or on your phone. You can print it off if you want to. You can print just certain pages of it off, but it's, you know, in that way it's kind of like ecologically friendly, and it just will allow me to do so much more with it with little risk. So I think that's cool. I am now, if you'd like, I'm not really looking for suggestions right now of articles because I've already got a long list of things I'm working on for this issue, but I would like to collect from people for every issue photographs of you with a sampler you've stitched. And it can be a reproduction or it can be just another sampler. And I want it to be of you. I want you in the picture. And I know that a lot of times people feel like, oh, I'm not pretty, or I'm just kind of scruffy, or don't feel that way. Think about the samplers that we love from the 1700s and the 1800s and how much we would love to see a photograph of the person who stitched it with the sampler. That would be such a treasure. And so you're a treasure. And I would like to show you with what you've done. You're part of that sampler, whether you like it or not. And so I'll be accepting submissions of photographs of you with a sampler. They need to be clear. I don't really care what format they're in as long as I can open them because I can change them to what I need. And I also would take questions about needlework or samplers specifically for the zine. And so if you want to submit questions, you can too. If you would like to contribute to the magazine, to the zine scene, you can also email me with your ideas. And so like if you reproduce samplers, or let's say you have a sampler and you want to reproduce a motif from it and have it included in the magazine, that would be cool. If you would like to write an article, if you've gone to a retreat, if you want to write an essay, anything that you think you can contribute to the knowledge and interest of people who love antique samplers and samplers of today, I would love to hear about your submission. I don't know what if any kind of response I'll get. I can't promise all y'all will go in the zine, but I'll fit in as much as I can. And so my email address I'm going to put right here, and I'll put a link also below, is xspeddler, Peddler, @yahoo.com. And you can use that to submit photograph of yourself with a sampler that you've stitched. I would love, if there are two of you that have stitched the same sampler, or a group of you, that would be wonderful too. I would love to see it. Questions about samplers for kind of a question and answer section. And then if you would like to contribute to the magazine in some way, send me your idea and we'll see what we can work out. So that's just something that I'm working on, just to let you know. I'm excited about it. Okay, now we're getting to the serious part of the video. And to me, this has kind of been like the elephant in the room for me. And it causes me a great deal of like sorrow and embarrassment and shame and bad memories. And don't tune out. I mean, well, you can tune out. Do what you want to do. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. In 2015, after market, I started a Kickstarter campaign to buy a sampler from Madalena called the Louisa Horsey Sampler. And I thought it would be a cool way to get the community involved, where it's like, okay, you're supporting the purchase of the sampler, and then in return, you'll get a chart of the sampler, plus I had bonuses depending on how much people donated towards the cause. And I had 56 people back me, and I was able to purchase the sampler, which was awesome. And it was about that time that I kind of went into a tailspin. And I can remember sitting right over there. As happy as I seem now, that's as sad as I was then. And I would just sit in front of my computer and just kind of stare. Like I would want to work on it. I would want to do things. I would sit in my stitching chair with the sampler, holding the sampler, and I could not do it. I couldn't do it. I got to a point where not only was I having auditory hallucinations, but my doctor and I were afraid that I was becoming agoraphobic, which is like the fear to leave your house. So things got real serious. And I'm not offering that as an excuse or like you should feel pity for me or, like I'm looking for your reassurance or anything like that. I don't need that. I'm just telling you what happened. This is just the story. And, I had said originally like it would take a couple of months for me to get this done and that the people who had supported the project would get their sampler charts ahead of everybody else. And I was a wreck. I was absolutely a wreck. And I got help. I went to the doctor and he was able to, work on my meds and get me to a place where I am today, which is great. And I had a lot of support from my family and friends. And I, at that time, had let my business just slide and I couldn't face it anymore. I think, it just was overwhelming to me. And I got another job and I worked 55 or 60 hours a week. And then I got another job, which was fewer hours, but much more stressful. And then I started designing again. And I'm glad that I took the journey that I did because it's really made me appreciate not only life, but it's made me appreciate my family and my friends and the people who have stuck with me. It's made me really realize how much I love needlework and want to be part of this community. But I never finished that project and I always felt really terrible, like a bad person, like I'm a bad person. And I mean, none of us can really define ourselves by one thing we do or one thing we don't do. But it doesn't make you not feel sorry or wish that you could change things. And so since I, quit my job a couple months ago, I was like, okay, one of the first things I need to do is get this sampler finished and make good on my promise and, and get back to it and do what I want to do. And so it took me a little bit to even get brave enough to pull it out because I was so nervous and I just felt really bad about it. And I pulled it out and I actually took it out of I had charted much of it already and I had already stitched a goodly chunk of it and I'm stitching it now. So I'm going to show you the original. And I pulled it out of the frame, which I hadn't done before. I try to chart with it protected as much as I can, but then I need to really get in there and look at things. This has a number of small over one sections, and then a lot of the words are over one. And those are the areas that I need to chart, and they're hard to see through the glass. And it was really cool because when I uncovered it, I pulled it out of the frame, I could smell pipe tobacco. And I knew that it wasn't going to last. And so I ran it to my husband and I said, quick, smell this. Doesn't it smell like pipe tobacco? And he goes, yeah, it does. It had like a sweet, smoky smell. And that was cool. And it doesn't, me, I smell everything. Why do I smell everything? So I'm going to show you the sampler now. Here it is. And it is a morning sampler. Let's get a little light on this again. It is a morning sampler in that it is about the death of a child. And it was Henry Horsey was born on December 7th, 1824, but he died February 22nd, 1825. So he just lived a few months. The next child that was born was also named Henry. The first Henry didn't even have a middle name. He didn't get a middle name. He may not have been baptized, I guess. I don't know. So it's so beautiful in so many ways. This is amazing, this motif here. Now it's got a really fine angel head and wings stitched over one. And then you can see there are little like butterflies and birds that are stitched over one too. And that's going to be really tricky. But it's so beautiful. The colors are so nice. The motifs are so nice. These roses here, the rose is stitched over one, but the leaves are over two. And it's got butterflies and angels and crowns and these super delightful folks down here at the bottom. Love her skirt. It's a dark, dark navy blue. Sheep. And the border, I love borders when they are, they change. So there are 4 different flowers that you stitch. So it's not like you're stitching the same flower 80 times. You're stitching 4 different flowers over and over again, which makes for a nice, nice variety. So that's Louisa's sampler. She finished it on December 21st in 1836. And so that's the sampler. Now it is on an uneven weave, which means this sampler is shorter than the reproduction is going to be. So that's that sampler. And I'll show you where I am, and I'm going to keep you up to date on how this is going. I have updated my Kickstarter page if you were an original backer. And so here's, you can see here's the beautiful flowers along the edges. And this is on 40 count. And so this week I did this top row of all the flowers in the border, and I did a good chunk of the bottom area there. And it's really, really fun to stitch. And as much as I dreaded pulling this back out, and I just dreaded it because there was just a lot of bad memories associated with this for me and for other people. I mean, it was bad, but I want to make it good. And I'm super having fun with it. And I've just decided, like, the new Han Solo movie is coming out. What does this have to do with antique samplers? I love Han Solo. Bendy Stitchy loves Han Solo. He's just one of my favorite characters. And they're making a new movie, and it's about the young Han Solo, and it's a different guy, obviously. And so a lot of people are like, it's not going to be as good because, you know, this other guy's stupid, and he's not a good actor, and it's just lame. I'm going into it saying, I'm going to love this movie. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to go into it with a totally open mind and an open heart and just enjoy it for what it is. And I've made that decision with this too, that I love it. In a way, like, that there is sorrow connected to that sampler. It is about a 3-month-old child that did not make it in a large family. And this young girl memorialized this little child with this beautiful sampler, and it took her many, many hours. And I had a hard time in my life too. And I'm not saying that it's equal to the death of a child I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine. But out of that is beauty. The sampler is beautiful. The reproduction is going to be beautiful. I hope that people who buy the chart and who get the chart for supporting the project and who maybe stitch it someday also find the beauty in it, and that it becomes a celebration of life, that it becomes a celebration of life, because that's really what it's all about. And so I can't even begin to apologize for as long as it's taken me to get back to this project. Please know that it has been on my mind for 3 years, and that I just was never really sure how I was ever going to face it and make it happen. But I'm going to. And it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. It's never too late. I feel like it's never too late to say I'm sorry. And I'm sorry. I am so sorry. And it's never too late to say I'll do better. And it's never too late to try again. You got to, what is it they say? Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again. And that's a blessing. Okay. I have one more thing to share with you. I have a giveaway. I always do a giveaway, guys. And I was thinking about Nina the other day. I think she lives in Hungary, and I've used her threads before. Oh my gosh, are they nice. Now, I just looked at her Etsy store, and I'll put a link to her Etsy store below, but she's closed right now. She has a young child, and she takes vacations and things, and she's closed right now. But she dyes yarns and fabric, and I should have got a piece of her fabric. Her fabric is like so amazing. I love her fabric. I've never used her fabric because I love it, and I don't want to use it and not have it anymore. But you know what? Stitch Mania, I'm dragging out some of Nina's fabrics. So I had bought a bunch of her threads to take to market one year, and I have some of them left. And I thought, you know what? It's so springy and beautiful and flowery outside. I'm going to put together a nice little springy group of colors of Nina's threads. And I think most of these are 10-yard skeins. There might be one 5-yard skein in there. But I tried to pick out kind of a springy rainbow of kind of soft, subtle, gentle colors. They're very, very pretty, and they're really soft and so nice to work with. They're really nice threads. Someone was asking me, like, what threads do you like? And I love sampler threads. I love Weeks Dye Works, Classic Color Works. I like a lot of threads. Gloriana, Thread Gatherer. Nina's threads are the bomb. And you can buy them on Etsy, and you know what? The shipping is not that expensive, considering that they come from overseas. Like, she really, I don't know how she does it. She keeps the shipping prices down. The colors are Fairy Wings, which is this pale, pale lavender. It's almost like you spilled grape soda on your sheets. Caribbean, which is this pretty blue. Gosh, I'm so sorry about the lighting today. Yellow, yellow is apricot. Candy Shop, which is such a neat, it's got kind of different kind of pastel-y colors worked through. Hibiscus and green mold. Maybe that'll remind you of your fridge. So that's what my giveaway is. And you know what? I didn't think of a question. Why don't we, since I'm doing a thread giveaway, why don't you say like what your favorite brand of thread is to work with? I don't want anybody to, don't mention giveaway or, you know, freebie or anything. Don't use this as an opportunity to say, I don't like this thread. Just tell me the thread you do like. So I like sampler threads because the colors are so pretty. I like Weeks Dye Works because I like the variegation. Whatever it is, I like DMC because it's cheap and cheerful. Whatever it is, whatever kind of thread is like your favorite thread to work with. And you don't even have, it doesn't even have to be something you've worked with many times. It could just be something I tried it once and I loved it. So talk about your favorite thread below, and you'll automatically be entered to win those threads from Nina. And maybe Nina's like your favorite. I'm not going to say they're my favorite, but I'm going to say that they're really, really nice to work with. I don't think I have a favorite. There's so many good ones is part of the problem. Okay, that's all I got for this week. Thank you so much for sticking with me. This was a long one, guys. I will be back soon. Please know that I'm working really hard. I'm doing lots of stuff. And if you're going to StitchCon, Needleworkers Delight. Needleworkers Delight has a bunch of my models, and I sent them charts. And within several days, they were like, "Can you send more charts?" And I said, "Yes." And I said, "Do you want me to send you some of my other charts too that you don't have the models for?" And they said, "Yes, please." So I sent them a bunch of charts, and they had about 15 models of mine that they're going to have too. So you can see some of my pieces in person if you'd like. And they're such nice people, and I'm sure you guys are going to have a blast. It's going to be so fun. So until next time, I hope you keep things cheap and cheerful, and I hope you're inspired by garbage, and I hope you're into all the good things. And I wish you nothing but happiness. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.